guys? It's Brad with MobileSyrup. I just went hands-on with the new MacBook Air, and it is pretty something. It is very, very light, but there are some notable differences and some notable similarities between that and the new refreshed MacBook Pro that came out, I don't know, a year, 6 months ago. It all blurs together in my head. But anyway, I'll start with the similarities. So the new MacBook Air has that sort of rounded, curved, but very squared, very almost bulbous but tightly packed design that the MacBook Pro had. Plus, it's got the same rubberized feet and the same notch, plus a very similar looking screen. I don't think it's as nice as the MacBook Pros, but it's very nice looking here today. Oh, I should also mention that the Air weighs 2.7 pounds, making it one of the lighter laptops in Apple's ecosystem. Not as light as the 12-inch MacBook, but very light, and holding it over there didn't feel like much. And it is 11.3 millimeters thin. You will notice that it's not that tapered design that the old MacBook Air used. It's no longer a wedge shape, but now it's more of a square rectangle, pretty strong, kind of like, I don't know, it just looks like a thinner MacBook Pro, which is pretty sweet actually. Basically, the new MacBook Air, it feels very similar to all the other MacBooks. It's got a great keyboard, a great trackpad. I'll also mention that this MacBook Air has 2 USB-C ports, a MagSafe charger, and a headphone jack. I would have liked to see the SD card slot return, but I'm pretty happy with the 2 USB-C ports because at least one of them isn't going to be eaten up by the charger. So anyone using this for work will be able to get a lot more out of it compared to the last MacBook Air, which only had 2 ports, and one of those ports had to be the charger. There is a notch like the MacBook Pro, for better or for worse. Apple says it's been able to push the screen size out from 13 inches to 13.4, which should give it some extra screen real estate, which is always needed. And there's some cool features coming up in macOS Ventura later this fall that's going to take advantage of that. I forget what it's called.
It's called Stage Manager.
It seems pretty cool. The MacBook Air comes in 4 colors: space gray, silver, there's a champagne gold color that we're all familiar with, and this year's new color is called Midnight, but it's a very, very deep blue. It reminds me of the blue on the back of the iMac or maybe the iPhone 12 Pro, but definitely a little darker. In here in the lighting today, it almost looks black or a very, very, very dark navy. Doesn't look bad, but it's worth pointing out. Oh, I forgot to mention also that the new MacBook Air has 18 hours of battery life, putting it ahead of all of the current Mac offerings, which is pretty phenomenal. And I think the workloads that will get done on the MacBook Air, I mean, that should probably hold up pretty close in real life. The only computer that actually beats it is the 13-inch MacBook Pro, which is running on an M2 chip as well. Anyway, enjoy the video. It's stacking up to be pretty incredible. Exciting thing about the new MacBook Air, I can't believe I didn't reference this off the start, but it's the new M2 chip. Apple says it's more powerful and less power hungry than traditional laptop chips. More importantly, it's more powerful than last year's M1, which should mean that we're in for a fairly good upgrade moving forward. Who knows how many years the M2 will stay in this MacBook Air, but even if it's another year, that's going to be pretty exciting. But I could see it going all the way to 2. The M2 starts off as the same 8-core sort of design that we've seen with the M1, which suggests that we will see M2 Pros, M2 Maxes, and M2 Ultras later down the line, sort of stapled together, extra cores, less efficiency cores. But for now, we're here at the baseline. It's in the new MacBook Air, and so far, it seems powerful enough to get a lot of stuff done. I mean, the M1 Air was really powerful on its own, so I'm expecting this one to be a lot better. One improvement on this M2 chip in this Air compared to last year is that there's now a 10-core GPU, giving the Air better graphics performance, which should help with gaming, which Apple made a bit of a show of at WWDC. Well, obviously, we're going to have to wait a few years for that to actually become as gaming-centric as Windows, but having those extra CPU cores in there should help a lot. Plus, they should help with content creation, which is what I think a lot of people using this Air are going to be using it for. Final improvement worth noting on the M2 is that it can now support up to 24 gigs of memory, bringing it a lot closer to what the M1 MacBook Pro can support. It's still not perfect, but people who want this computer and don't necessarily need all the power of a MacBook Pro can really max this out, and it should be good for years to come. 24 gigs of RAM is a bit of a weird increment, but I think it's more than enough for most people, especially using Apple's sort of integrated RAM into the chipset, because that traditionally works a little faster than you would see on a custom-built computer from Windows. Anyway, all right, I don't have official Canadian pricing for the MacBook Air yet. I'll probably be getting it from someone any minute now, but I'm going to throw that up on screen here. You guys can marvel at it, how expensive or how cheap you think it is, but let me know in the comments if you're going to be buying one. Just to round this all out, I'm Brad with MobileSyrup. Follow us anywhere to get all kinds of WWDC news. You can follow me online for all my sort of takes on tech and Twitter in general, and yeah, so make sure you subscribe to help us grow the channel. Peace, and I'll see you guys in the next one.